When templates replace judgment, you open a ticket, pick from a dropdown, paste into a template, and the real problem still isn't named. The checklist gets a green status, while the customer, the patient, the student, the neighbor becomes an exception nobody can approve. When standardization replaces local judgment, coordination becomes easier to measure but harder to tell the truth in. The system gains predictability, and people lose the ability to respond to what is actually in front of them. Standardization starts as a relief. Templates, categories, and required fields reduce friction. Fewer meetings to clarify basics, fewer back-and-forth messages, fewer surprises. Leaders can compare teams, auditors can trace decisions. New staff can follow a path without memorizing the whole environment. In that sense, standardization is a form of coordination technology. It compresses messy reality into something portable. But notice the mechanism. To coordinate at scale, the system must constrain what can be expressed. A form has finite fields, a dashboard has finite metrics, a checklist has finite steps. That is the explicit constraint. Only what fits the predefined categories can count as real. Everything else is either forced into the nearest box or disappears. From there, incentives take over. If performance reviews, budgets, or approvals are tied to what the dashboard can see, teams will adapt their work to what the dashboard rewards. Work that is legible gets prioritized. Work that is hard to categorize, relationship repair, careful listening, unusual cases, slow prevention, becomes optional or invisible. A feedback loop forms. The more the template is used, the more the organization believes the template describes reality. And the more it believes that, the more it punishes the people who speak in any other language. Who benefits? Those who must manage across distance benefit. Supervisors, compliance functions, finance. Anyone responsible for consistency or risk. They gain comparability and speed. The organization also benefits in a narrow way. Fewer unpredictable decisions, fewer explanations, fewer conflicts about why did you do it that way. Who bears the cost? The people at the edges bear it. Frontline staff, support teams, caregivers, operators, anyone who meets reality first. They absorb the mismatch between the template and the situation. They either do extra unpaid translation work, making a complex case look normal, or they stop trying and let the template drive. And the end user bears cost as well, because their particular context is treated as noise. There is always a trade-off. Standardization buys coordination and reduces variance. It also reduces discretion and narrows agency. The system becomes safer for the organization and sometimes less safe for the person. It becomes easier to defend and harder to care. Exceptions are the pressure point. An exception is not just a rare case. It is information that the categories are incomplete. But exceptions slow the process. They require judgment, escalation, or a second look, and those things look like inefficiency. So organizations quietly design for a world without exceptions. They create no free text policies. They require approvals from someone who is distant from the work. They route everything through the same funnel. The result is not cruelty by intention. It is predictability by design. Intent is not impact. And once a standard exists, it tends to metastasize. Each time an unusual case appears, the system can either expand discretion or add another rule. Adding a rule is easier to justify, easier to document, and easier to measure. Over time, local judgment is reclassified as non-compliance. The system does not merely coordinate work, it coordinates attention, telling people what is worth noticing and what must be ignored. This is not only an operational issue. It reaches into dignity and responsibility. Dignity includes being seen as more than a category, more than a row in a spreadsheet, more than a risk score. When a person's needs cannot be spoken in the system's approved vocabulary, their agency shrinks. They can ask, but they cannot be heard in the official record. Standardization also rearranges responsibility. When the template is treated as the authority, people learn to outsource judgment to the process. I followed the checklist. That sentence can protect a worker, but it can also dissolve accountability for harm. Responsibility is distributed, not dissolved. The organization owns the constraints it creates. The worker carries the immediate consequence. The end user experiences the outcome. Attention is the quiet lever here. A dashboard teaches what matters. A required field teaches what counts. If the system cannot attend to context, then context becomes a private burden carried by individuals, handled through side conversations, personal favors, or quiet workarounds. That creates unequal access. Those who know how to navigate exceptions get help. Those who don't are processed. So the deeper question becomes, what kind of humans does this coordination system train us to be? Translators of reality or keepers of categories? Notice where a template feels like a relief and where it feels like a denial. Consider the last edge case you saw. Did it become a problem to remove or a signal to learn from? Name the costs that never appear on the dashboard. Time spent translating, trust lost in the process, dignity reduced to a label. Name the cost, not just the benefit. A coordinated system can be orderly and still be untruthful. Our responsibility is to keep judgment alive without turning it into blame.